Right now, the largest sporting spectacle in human history is unfolding across North America, and behind the flashing stadium lights and the multi-billion-dollar broadcasts, something fundamentally isn't adding up. For the past 2 years, the narrative was meticulously set. The United States, a nation that built its entire global brand on the hyper-efficient management of massive spectacles, would deliver a flawless, frictionless, larger-than-life World Cup. Die-hard football fans from Lagos, Lima and Seoul emptied their life savings, booked $15,000 itineraries, and prepared for the trip of a lifetime. Walk inside any of the ultra-modern, climate-controlled mega-stadiums right now, and that promise looks perfectly intact. The pitches are pristine, the luxury suites are packed with tech billionaires, and the atmosphere is electric. But step exactly 50 yards outside those stadium gates, past the security perimeters, and you run directly into a bizarre quiet crisis that the organizers are desperately trying to sweep under the rug instead of the vibrant, chaotic, multicultural street carnival that defines every traditional World Cup. International visitors are encountering a sterile, hyper-expensive logistical minefield. Across several major US host cities, standard hotel booking curves haven't just softened, they have underperformed pre-tournament industry projections by staggering margins. Mid-tier hospitality sectors are staring at rows of empty rooms, while local businesses that braced for an unprecedented economic windfall are wondering where the crowds went. The international middle-class fan, the actual cultural engine of global football, is systematically being priced out, locked out, or turned away. But the most damning anomaly happened before a single ball was even kicked, exposing a structural flaw so severe it threatened the integrity of the tournament itself. When the South African national squad prepared to board their flights to the United States, more than 20 players and vital technical staff were left stranded at the airport. They weren't held back by injuries, contract disputes, or sudden disqualifications. They were blocked because their official US visas had failed to clear the bureaucratic machinery in time. These weren't casual tourists navigating a notoriously complex immigration system. These were elite, internationally recognized athletes traveling with full, high-tier FIFA credentials on official tournament business, backed by a multi-billion-dollar governing body. If the system treats the actual performers of the show like an administrative afterthought, what chance does an ordinary fan holding a match ticket have? This single incident pulled back the curtain on an invisible wall of friction that has been quietly repelling global travelers for months. For every fan who receives a hard, explicit rejection notice, there are 10 more who simply look at the compounding uncertainty, the astronomical hidden costs, and the absolute lack of predictability and quietly decide to withdraw. They don't fill out the paperwork. They don't buy the flights. They change their plans in silence, leaving no trace in official rejection statistics, but leaving a massive, measurable void in host city economies. This isn't just a story about a sporting event experiencing routine logistical hiccups. It is a multi-billion-dollar cautionary tale about what happens when hypercapitalism and institutional decay collide with a global audience. The United States walked into this tournament carrying the highest standard of operational excellence any host nation has ever been measured against. By treating the World Cup not as a shared global festival, but as a highly exclusive premium corporate asset, the host organizers have triggered an unprecedented behavioral shift. For the first time in modern sports history, international fans are realizing they have options. They are actively exploiting a massive geographic loophole built directly into the structure of this tournament. One that allows them to experience the magic of the matches while completely bypassing the American mainland. How did the wealthiest, most powerful country on earth build a multi-billion-dollar stage only to alienate the very people meant to fill it? To understand how a dream trip for millions morphed into a clinical, hyper-monetized corporate trap, we have to look past the scoreboard and examine a series of fatal historical decisions, geographical illusions, and corporate calculations that broke the promise of the American World Cup before the tournament even began. The operational crisis unfolding across the United States is not an accidental oversight. It is the mathematical consequence of a structural trap set nearly a decade ago. On June 13, 2018, at the 68th FIFA Congress in Moscow, The joint united bid of the United States, Canada, and Mexico secured the hosting rights for the 2026 tournament, winning 134 votes against Morocco's 65. The core marketing pitch presented by the United Bid Committee was deceptively simple: absolute economic security. Organizers promised a record-breaking $11 billion in revenue, utilizing existing NFL megastadiums to eliminate the risk of abandoned white elephant infrastructure that plagued previous hosts like Brazil and South Africa. Wikipedia, however, this financial guarantee contained a fundamental geopolitical catch. To maximize broadcasting rights and ticket sales, FIFA expanded the tournament format from 32 teams to an unprecedented 48-team field. This decision ballooned the schedule from 64 matches to 104 matches, stretching across a 39-day window. What was sold to the public as a celebration of global inclusion was, in reality, a massive expansion of inventory designed to satisfy corporate sponsors and streaming networks. By scaling the tournament to this magnitude, organizers transformed a regional sports event into a continental logistical nightmare, trapping fans and teams in the vast geographic reality of North America. Britannica, the scale of this geographic trap becomes clear when evaluating the physical distances between the 16 chosen host cities. In the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, the maximum distance between any two stadiums was just 75 kilometers, allowing fans to attend multiple matches a day via a single unified metro system. In 2026, the distance between venues like Vancouver and Miami exceeds 5,000 kilometers, spanning 3 distinct time zones and radical shifts in climate and altitude. The tournament schedule forces teams and their traveling supporters to execute grueling continental crossings between group stage matches. For instance, Group J configuration forces Algeria to shuttle between Kansas City and San Francisco, a linear distance of 2,400 kilometers that includes a mandatory 2-hour time change. If a squad like Czechia finishes second in its group and advances to the final, its projected total travel distance will reach 16,500 kilometers. This is more than 3 times the travel required for teams enjoying optimized regional schedules. Mikami 3345. This spatial disparity exposes the deep deficit in American public transportation infrastructure. While previous European and Asian hosts relied on high-speed rail networks to move hundreds of thousands of fans seamlessly between urban centers, the United States presents a heavily fragmented, car-dependent landscape. Intercity rail alternatives are virtually non-existent between these massive mega-regions, turning domestic flights into a captive market. Commercial airlines and ride-sharing corporations quickly recognized this logistical dependency, adjusting algorithms to implement aggressive surge pricing. For an international supporter, moving from a group stage match in Houston to a knockout match in Los Angeles requires booking multiple domestic flights that cost more than their original transoceanic ticket. The geographic layout of the host nation has effectively converted basic mobility into a highly lucrative extraction mechanism. The physical barrier of distance is further compounded by a rigid, evolving political apparatus. When the United Bid was assembled in 2017, the host committee explicitly assured FIFA that the United States would maintain open access for all qualifying nations and their fans. But immigration policy operates independently of sporting agreements. On April 2, 2026, the United States State Department expanded its controversial visa bond program, imposing a severe financial barrier aimed directly at developing economies. Under these updated regulations, nationals from 50 specific countries are required to post upfront cash bonds of up to $15,000 before receiving temporary B1 or B2 tourist visas. Wikipedia Show 1. This policy directly penalizes supporters from qualified nations such as Senegal, Tunisia, Algeria, and Côte d'Ivoire. For a middle-class family from Dakar or Tunis, saving 2 years for match tickets and lodging was already a monumental stretch. Forcing them to deposit an additional $15,000 cash bond with the US government simply to clear border security transforms a sports trip into a financial impossibility. Furthermore, active presidential proclamations enforce partial or total travel bans on multiple nations. While high-tier exemptions were carved out for players and coaches, no such relief exists for regular ticket holders, corporate sponsors, or journalists from the affected regions. Jelani Law, firm, Yisho1, the systemic bottleneck at US consulates abroad, has created unprecedented administrative backlogs. In major South American and African capitals, the standard wait time for a routine visa interview appointment currently extends past 300 days. This timeline creates a mathematical paradox. Thousands of fans who bought official match tickets through the general FIFA lottery in 2025 cannot legally secure an interview before the final whistle blows in July 2026. The historical mistake was assuming that the United States would temporarily suspend its domestic border enforcement apparatus. Or the sake of a soccer tournament. Instead, the country has maintained its strict post-pandemic security protocols, treating a global sporting crowd with the same systemic suspicion applied to standard immigration streams. The open loop introduced in the tournament's design has alienated the international fan base, leaving the expensive seats inside the stadiums to be filled primarily by affluent domestic consumers who do not require passports, visas, or multi-thousand-mile flights to participate. The geographic and political traps have successfully closed around the tournament, altering the demographics of the audience and setting the stage for an intense clash of interests between local municipalities, corporate sponsors, and the fans themselves. The structural friction built into the 2026 World Cup has escalated into an open conflict between the economic models of the host cities and the operational realities on the ground. By early July 2026, the tournament has reached its critical knockout stage, exposing a sharp division between official corporate optimistic projections and the actual data gathered from transit systems, hospitality networks, and local municipal balance sheets. The tension is no longer an abstract administrative debate, it is a tangible clash between state-level enforcement, corporate pricing algorithms, and an overextended urban infrastructure, according to data compiled by Smith Travel Research, STR, for the first 2 weeks of the tournament. Hotel occupancy across major US host hubs like Atlanta, Miami, and Los Angeles averaged 72.4%. This represents a significant decline from the 88% occupancy rate projected by local tourism bureaus in their initial municipal bids. The primary driver of this deficit is a severe miscalculation in algorithmic surge pricing. In June 2026, major hotel chains and short-term rental platforms implemented automated adjustments that inflated baseline room rates by 250 to 400%. In downtown Atlanta, standard 3-star accommodations peaked at $620 per night. This aggressive pricing strategy successfully captured high-net-worth corporate hospitality groups, but effectively drove away independent international travelers, who shifted their bookings to peripheral suburbs or chose to shorten their stays entirely. This retreat of the traditional fan base has triggered an economic counter-reaction from local business coalitions. In Seattle and Philadelphia, bar and restaurant owners who collectively invested millions of dollars in extended licensing fees, temporary staffing, and dedicated viewing infrastructure are reporting revenues up to 40% below baseline projections. The sterile security perimeters mandated by FIFA, extending up to 1 full mile around venues like Lincoln Financial Field and Lumen Field, have created commercial dead zones. Within these designated clean zones, local businesses are legally prohibited from operating unless they pay exorbitant licensing fees to become official FIFA partners. Consequently, the commercial windfall has been concentrated entirely inside the stadium gates, where corporate concessionaires charge $18 for a standard beverage and $25 for basic food items, draining capital away from the municipal economies that funded the event's security infrastructure. Simultaneously, the physical movement of fans within host cities has pushed regional transit networks to their absolute limits, exposing years of underfunding. In New Jersey, the transit link between Manhattan and MetLife Stadium suffered a catastrophic sequence of signal failures during a high-profile group stage match, stranding over 15,000 fans on outdoor platforms in 90-degree heat. The incident directly mirrored the logistical failures of the 2014 Super Bowl at the same venue. The localized transit network, designed primarily for predictable commuter flows, could not handle the concentrated surge of international travelers unfamiliar with the fragmented ticketing systems. In Texas, the absolute lack of pedestrian infrastructure surrounding AT&T Stadium in Arlington forced thousands of visitors to walk along the shoulders of high-speed interstate access roads, creating severe traffic hazards and prompting emergency interventions by state highway patrols. The logistical crisis has deepened into a complex regulatory battle between local municipal authorities and corporate ride-sharing platforms. In Los Angeles, the city's Department of Transportation attempted to impose temporary caps on surge pricing to protect traveling fans from exploitative fares. Uber and Lyft immediately countered with legal injunctions, arguing that municipal price caps violated state-level commerce laws and disrupted free market mechanisms. During peak exit windows following major matches, rideshare algorithms pushed fares from SoFi Stadium to downtown hotels above $280 for a 15-mile journey. This pricing surge forced thousands of fans to wait in unlit staging zones for up to 3 hours, escalating security concerns and forcing local police departments to deploy additional tactical units to manage the crowds. The conflict extends far beyond transit and pricing into the regulatory domain of sports medicine and corporate labor. On June 24, 2026, a coalition representing European sports scientists filed an official memorandum with FIFA expressing grave concerns over player safety regarding the synthetic turf surfaces installed in several US venues. While FIFA mandated that all artificial fields be temporarily overlaid with natural grass for the tournament, the retrofitted pitches have shown severe degradation. The hybrid turf laid over concrete bases at venues like Mercedes-Benz Stadium began fracturing under high temperatures, creating uneven seams that have already contributed to soft tissue injuries for 3 high-profile international players. The quick-fix transformation of NFL stadiums into traditional football pitches has proven to be a dangerous compromise, prioritizing corporate venue flexibility over basic athletic safety. As the tournament enters its final weeks, the operational reality has reached a complete stalemate. The federal government refuses to ease visa restrictions or lower financial bonds. Local transit authorities lack the immediate capital to fix systemic infrastructure deficits, and corporate stakeholders continue to prioritize short-term revenue maximization through aggressive algorithmic pricing. The result is a highly fragmented tournament experience that operates efficiently for the affluent corporate elite, but functions as an expensive, exhausting obstacle course for the traditional football fan base.